Today on the BVA Boardroom podcast, we have Tim Wrightman. Tim Wrightman, there's not words to kind of describe this guy. You'll see what an amazing guy. He played for UCLA Bruins football 1978 to 81, was drafted by the Chicago Bears, Super Bowl champion on the famous, in fact, if not the best NFL team ever, the Chicago Bears Super Bowl championship team. After his football career, became an actor. I'll have some great stories about Chuck Norris and Tony Danza on today's podcast. Was an active actor in Hollywood for 12 years. And then the last 25 years, he runs Lazy Bear Ranch in Weiser, Idaho, which is a pheasant hunting ranch and also an event venue. He also has the Wrightman Foundation where he gives back. You'll really enjoy this. Tim Wrightman. You look good.
Oh, thanks. So do you. I've never seen you without a hat on.
I've never seen you without a hat on.
Yeah. I thought you were bald.
Hey, this is not going to be as much fun as the fun we usually have.
Why not? Of course it will be.
It will be. So welcome. I'll read your bio. It'll be part of the intro.
Okay.
So we'll hit it all, but I can't wait to get caught up. You got to be one of the most interesting people in the planet. So this will be fun.
I just get bored easily. That's like you.
So Tim Wrightman's our guest today. Most famously, I don't know what most famously, member of the world champion Chicago Bears in 1986 Super Bowl team.
Yeah. So a couple of years ago, NFL Films did a movie called 85, The Greatest Team in Football History. So that's what I always say. It's the greatest team in football history. And not my words, but NFL Films.
Hey, we've got this stuff queued, don't we, Matthew? Look at this. Look at this. Here it is. So for those of you watching on YouTube, the real deal, number 80. This is it.
They did a.
Listen to the voice in the background.
Well,
this is the real deal, Tim.
That's the old
NFL
film stuff. Yeah. So I had an NFL Films guy come out to the ranch and film some stuff, and then he went through and he said, "Tim, we're doing a piece on the 85 Bears. I'm going to go in and wherever I see number 80, I'll pull out the film, and put it together." I had a couple years before that wanted to get a couple clips from playing the 49ers of me running over Ronnie Lott. That's pretty rare. So I wanted to, but it cost me like $1,500 to get 3 plays. Now this guy sent me 20 minutes of NFL film stuff and said, it's on me, and it's pretty incredible stuff to have. Like you. We've reinvented ourselves quite a few times, and doing stuff. And I don't really remember like playing in a lot of games. I've lost bets to people like, "Oh yeah, you did this and this," and I go, "No, we didn't," and I was wrong. So it's I think in my life I've just kind of kept moving forward. It's great to look back at the past, and I'll never give up. Using being part of the greatest team in football history to promote my ranch and promote other things that I'm doing. Yeah. But it's in the past, and always looking to the next goal.
So you're super entrepreneurial, and you've recreated yourself multiple times.
Right.
I want to kind of go through it because I think it is fascinating. I've known you for a while. But the more layers you peel off, you're like, really, you did that too? So right now you're the owner of Lazy Bear Ranch,
right?
And out in Weiser, unbelievable facility.
Thank you.
You do events, and then you do pheasant hunts. Which
right,
is
that's how we met. Yep.
I've seen you out there, and most recently, I'll say, Tim, and then we'll get back. But my father-in-law just turned 80, and his shoulders are horrible. And I think for guys that get a little older, he was an avid hunter and fisherman his entire life, and we took him out shooting about 4 months ago, and he couldn't lift his shotgun up, and you could just see like the energy and just, it's over for me.
Right.
So for his 80th birthday, I said, we are going to get you out to Tim's ranch, and you are going to be able to go out and shoot a pheasant. And,
right.
And we're going to help you. You're going to figure this out. So I got to tell you, thank you. He doesn't stop talking about it. We took all of his sons, son-in-laws, grandsons, came out and did a hunt, and you were so kind to him. Had a birthday cake out there, but he actually was able to shoot a couple birds, and it just was amazing.
Well, it's interesting, adrenaline, right? and even no matter how many times I go out and I hunt, I love seeing, like you love good dog work, and you see a dog point and you forget all your ills and your aches and pains. And he stepped up, and when he saw the bird fly, and even his sons and everybody was saying it didn't even look like your shoulder was bothering you. That adrenaline.
He all of a sudden had a rotator cuff again.
Right.
Anyway,
exactly.
you were absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
And for anyone that wants to look, it's Lazy Bear Ranch.
.com.
Yeah. You do hunts, and we'll get back into that. But I did want to tell you thank you before we got.
Oh, you're
going.
welcome.
You grew up in California. Let's start where it began.
I grew up in. We're in Boise, Idaho now. I tell people I'm from a small town south of here, Los Angeles, and don't hold that against me. I grew up in a very small town. My dad was a longshoreman. I grew up 2 blocks from the beach. I was that kid that went to the beach every day growing up, and California was a wonderful place to grow up at that time. And I ended up, when I was little, I was big, and so I gravitated towards sports. I wasn't very good in the beginning, but I grew into my body. And as the first time that I ever measured height and weight was a freshman in high school at 14, and I was 6'1", 185. And then I grew a couple more inches and stuff like that. But I wasn't very good when I first started, and I just wanted it more than anybody else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just that's, I think, a lot about life, and that's how I think I've succeeded. There's a great story about Zig Ziglar where he gives these great talks, and he says, if you really want to know the secret of success, come down after and I'll whisper it in your ear. And so, people come down after he gives this big elaborate talk, and he says, the secret to success is work a really, 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 really long time, really, 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 really hard. That's what it is. And I know you've done that, with your medical career, and then gone off, and I think that part of the reason that we have become friends is that we kind of understand each other, and that we've reinvented ourselves so many times. And like, one of the things I wanted to ask you is, like, what do you think the next step is? Because I don't know if this is your last thing.
Yeah.
And so it's always like, I feel fortunate now with the ranch that I'm able to create different things. Like, I have so many, you can call them revenue sources, or you can call them just, fun things to do. Now I'm doing concerts. I have a concert this August that I'm doing a Jimmy Buffett tribute band. We did the Eagles tribute band last year. But, and then events with weddings and corporate events and hunts and, and growing alfalfa. And it gives me a lot of different things.
Yeah, talk a little bit about the setting, because it's just gorgeous. I mean, you get there in the morning, you come across the bridge, there's the river, and it's this oasis you created out there.
Well, thank you. So my dad retired to Weezer. It was I was about ending my football career, but he had found Weezer back in the early '60s before I was born. Him and his 2 buddies from California were up elk hunting in Montana. The story is they were too drunk to drive any further, so they pulled into Weezer to get a motel room. They ran into a cowboy guy that was in one of these beer bars, and he started talking to him, and he said, hey, did you bring your shotguns? Because I've got a little place up the road. I could really use some chucker thinned out. And they're, somebody's offering us a place to go hunt. And they said yes. And he goes, well, the manager knows where my place is. He'll tell you, meet me there at 7:30. So he leaves. And my dad asks the manager of the place, is that guy on the level? And he goes, no, he's one of the biggest BSers in the county. That guy doesn't have a little place. He's got about 10,000 acres. So they go up and they hunt. And it was just incredible. And this guy became friends. My dad became friends with this guy. He said, Jack, anytime you want to come back and hunt, let me know. And my dad did it, took all his vacation time for the month of October, which, October in Idaho, there's no place better in the world. And so he would come up here and he'd hunt the whole month of October. And then when he retired, he told me, I'm retiring in Weezer, Idaho. I'd never been to Idaho, All I would know about, my dad would come home and he'd have some long pheasant feathers, he'd give me. And so after my football career, about the early 1991, 92, I'd come up and start hunting with my dad. And and then about 1999, 2000, Tommy, you go knock on a door and ask somebody if you could go hunt on their place, and they'd say, no, I don't want to. I got family coming.
Yeah.
They'd start making excuses. So I figured I better buy some ground just so I had a place if I wanted to go shoot. And I bought my first 100 acres there. There was nothing there, and thank you, because I've planted every tree. I've made every road. I've done everything I've had.
Dug every pond.
Yeah, dug every pond. Yeah, so it's been it's a labor of love, like anything, like your place. You don't think about all the hours you spend in it. You're like, how would you even calculate that? But and it's it's always, I don't know if you've ever heard of the Winchester Mansion in San Jose. It was owned by the heir to the Winchester fortune of the guns. And she was crazy. And so it's now a historical site, but it's her mansion. She felt that she wasn't worthy of the money that the Winchester guns, because they killed people, so it was ill-gotten gains. So she thought that she was being haunted by ghosts. So she had carpenters there, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, pounding, sawing to keep the spirits away, the bad spirits. So there's staircases that go nowhere, doors that open that shouldn't be there. And anyway, my friends call me the Winchester Mansion, Idaho, because I never stop building stuff.
You always have a project.
I always have a project. I always say, that's it. When I built my motel 2 years ago out there, I go, that's it. I'm not building another thing. That's it. I'm done. That's it. And
now you're doing the extended patio.
Yeah, now I'm doing the pavilion, and it's like there's an old saying, Japanese saying, that says, house done, man dead. And I think there's
some truth to that.
Yeah.
Right?
And I bet your wife has you.
Keep the old man out, right?
Right, yeah.
Hey, let me go back to your upbringing. So you play at UCLA. Mm-hmm. One of the pieces of memorabilia you have is that I don't know how many people in the world have a recruiting letter from John Wayne.
Yeah. So John Wayne, he played one season at USC. He was a defensive lineman, and then in the summer, after his freshman year, he went and started working on sets as an extra. And then I think it was John Huston, who was a famous director, found him, and the rest is history about that. But he always was a very prominent USC alumnus and that sort of thing. And where I grew up in San Pedro, that's very much a USC country. My mom was a USC fan. My mom wanted me to go to USC. I get a letter from John Wayne, addressed to me. He didn't even really mention in the letter UCLA. He mentioned Notre Dame, because Notre Dame was recruiting me heavily as well. And it came down to USC and UCLA for me to go, and I just thought UCLA was a better spot for me at the time, playing tight end. And USC actually recruited me as a linebacker, and I wanted to play offense. So, but thank God for my mom, because when you're 17, 18 years old, you're just living it. You know what I mean? You're not really grateful. You know what I mean? When you're older and you look back on it. And so thank God for moms that save all that stuff.
Oh, it's incredible.
I wouldn't have any. One of my biggest regrets, and I never thought that I was arrogant or anything like that, but you're just a young kid and you're just living stuff. So I get drafted by the Bears in 1982.
So storied career at UCLA, then drafted by the Bears in 82.
82, yeah. Jim McMahon was the first pick of the Bears that year. I was the second pick, but I was the third round. So the Bears fly me back to Chicago to do a press interview thing. And they take me to Hallis Hall, and I go to Hallis Hall, and I go, oh God, this is pro football. This really sucks.
Coming from UCLA.
It was horrible. Yeah, UCLA was great. Like the locker room and the training. I'm going, this is pro football. I go, okay, well at least I'm going to get some money, right? So anyway, downstairs in the locker room, I met this old man, and to this day, I regret not having a better sense of who I was meeting. I got to meet George Hallis, and he Papa Bear. He was one of the people that created the NFL, and I didn't really, now if I had a chance to go back and recreate that meeting of him, I would have taken it a long time ago. McMahon famously that same year met him, and Hallis was still a tough guy even at 83. And McMahon goes. It's a famous story where McMahon goes in. He brings a 6-pack of beer, in a meeting with George Hallis. And
Like most of these good BYU guys.
yeah, exactly. And so Coach Hallis, excuse me, says to Jim, you have a bad eye, you've got a bad knee, and God, your arm strength isn't that good. And McMahon goes, well, why the F did you graft me then, old man? And that's like famously written up. And anyway, I would have had a lot different meeting with George Hallis if I had known who I was meeting.
Yeah,
but I was a Rams
right?
fan, and you're 21 and you're just trying to survive all that stuff. And I look back on it now, I go, gosh, I wish I would have taken advantage of it more and had a more interesting talk, or more knowledgeable talk.
So you've got to spend some time on this podcast talking, because this is one of the greatest teams, if not the greatest team of all time, right? 85.
Greatest team in football history.
Greatest team.
NFL films.
NFL.
Not my words.
So you think of that team. Well, I mean, unbelievable legends on that team. Talk a little bit about what it was like playing with them, winning the Super Bowl. Tell us a little bit about each of those guys that
Sure.
you got to play with. And then during that time, too, I think at least for me, I mean, with my age, that was kind of the golden era for me, like of who was in the NFL then. And
Right.
it's just, I mean, you played against some of the legends of the game.
Yeah, you're a little bit younger than me, so I understand. Like when I was growing up, the 1974 to 75, 78 Dodgers, I could tell you everybody who was in the infield. So that's kind of like the time that you were, as young boys, we learn all that stuff, and we get the football cards.
Sports Illustrated magazine.
Yeah.
You'd cut out all the pictures and hang it up in your room.
Exactly,
right?
yeah. That's when I learned how to fold tape over. I don't know if they had two-sided tape then, but I thought I was pretty ingenious.
If they did, we couldn't afford it.
Right. And we're putting it on there.
Yeah.
And in fact, my mom saved a bunch of the Sports Illustrateds. That she did buy me a subscription of that, and I have some of the old Sports.
Did she let you
Illustrated.
get the swimsuit issue, or did she hide it?
I don't
My
think
mom.
they were around then. I really don't. I think
They were around in the late 80s.
Yeah, not me. I was already out of the house by then. So, but I have all the old magazines, and so I went through. We'll get back to the Bears, but I went through like this old chest, and I said, "Oh, know him, worked with him. So I got all the ones out of there that I knew the people and I could contact them. So I have like Terry Bradshaw, Fran Tarkington,
Wow.
Mark Spitz, all these guys, Hagler, all these people I ran into that I personally had known. So I have some of those hanging up at the ranch. I know you've seen a couple of them. But, excuse me, Mike Ditka probably said it best about the 85 Bears. We were characters with character. So the person that got in trouble the most in 1985 was Mike Ditka. So Mike Ditka got arrested for a DUI. And it was after the San Francisco game, the in 84 season, the Bears had lost to the 49ers 27-0 in the championship game. And it was a big deal. And the 49ers said, hey, next time you come back, bring an offense. So the following year, about the fifth game, we go out to play the 49ers. Both teams are, undefeated. Jerry Rice, Joe Montana, and the Bears. We go out to San Francisco for the rematch, and we end up beating them 24-10. And on the way home, Ditka was celebrating quite a bit, and he's driving home from the airport and gets pulled over by the Illinois State Police. So he was the worst out of anybody. None of our guys on our team had, drinking problems or problems with wives, or and we were all we were fun. We did the Super Bowl shuffle, we did that kind of stuff, but everybody was kind of a good guy. And there were right now there's 6 guys from that team that are in the Hall of Fame that I played with. So but the interesting thing is, anytime that people know that I played on the 85 Bears, the first person they want to know about, who do you think it is?
McMahon, I would guess.
No, the Fridge.
Yeah, the Fridge.
The Fridge.
He scored a touchdown, right? In the
Super Bowl.
In the Super Bowl. So here's not that you care, but I was delivering pizzas. So I worked a job at a pizza place. And back then, right, you didn't have a phone. and we were watching the game, and I was at work, and then you'd run out and you'd turn on AM radio.
Right.
So I will never forget like taking a pizza up to a house. You didn't have you don't have
Super Bowl
maps.
Sunday, you must have got quite a few tips.
We had tips were great. So we're fighting over who got to deliver, but you're also missing the game. And I remember running up to a house, running back, getting in my car, turning my car on, and immediately hearing his touchdown call as he took it in, then going back, and then you had to wait for it. There was no Sports Center.
Right. Yeah.
There was no. I mean, it was.
Oh, I know. Yeah, so the Fridge, it's interesting how he got to be on offense because he was a first-round pick of the Bears that year, and Buddy Ryan, who was the defensive coordinator at the time, didn't want him. He felt that he was, he couldn't make the weight to play, so he wasn't playing on defense, and so they put him on a special diet and all this stuff, and he's starting to gain weight. They go, what, isn't he? So Ditka hired a private investigator to follow the Fridge to see what was going on. Well, he didn't drive, so his wife would pick him up after practice. The first thing they'd go, McDonald's. He'd get 5 Big Macs and, 10 vanilla. I mean, it was, incredible. So it was like a big deal in Chicago. Like Ditka got on his wife about, well, the reason the Fridge isn't playing because of his wife. His wife's taking him to McDonald's and all this stuff. So anyway, because Buddy Ryan said he's not going to play defense until he makes the weight. Now, a side story, the Fridge's nickname on the Bears was Biscuit because he was one biscuit away from 350. So anyway, Biscuit, he's not being able to play defense because he can't make the weight. So Ditka says, well, bring him over. I'll put him on offense. So Ditka brings him over. He puts him in, to block for Walter and that. Hey, he can block. He's pretty good at blocking. So he goes, I wonder if he can run the ball. So he gives him the ball. He scores a touchdown. He runs the ball. He goes, the next week he goes, let's see if he can catch a pass. So the next week we play the Green Bay Packers. He catches a pass for a touchdown. And he says, okay, he can block, he can run, he can catch the ball. I'm going to see if he can throw. No, he can't throw. So we practiced a bunch of times where you get the ball and try. He couldn't throw at all. But he was 335 pounds listed in the thing. And I actually had seen him because we'd play these off-season basketball games for charity where he could dunk a ball standing still.
So incredibly athletic.
Yeah, once he could get all that momentum going.
It was.
He could.
Hey Matthew, pull up his touchdown run if you can. It's it was a short run, but I'll never forget.
Right.
I finally got to see it. I heard the call, and then what a team. So you had him, you had McMahon.
Yeah, and one little side note. So the Fridge's touchdown in the Super Bowl. That was Ditka always talks about. That's one of his greatest regrets of coaching because Walter didn't get a chance to score a touchdown.
Right, because you guys scored like. 40,
the defense scored a bunch of times. So if you look at the left side of the line, you see number 80.
There he is.
And the Fridge knows where to run. He's going to run right behind number 80 there at the end of the line. See, right there, number 80. He ran right behind me.
That's incredible.
But my whole motivation to block was to get out of his way. I didn't want him to run up my legs.
Hey, do that one more time, Matthew. So you blocked for the Fridge.
Yeah.
There it is.
He was right in the to the left, the tackle tight end gap, right there on the end.
Yeah, that's right. There he goes. Boom.
So that was when Ditka always talks about the one thing, and Walter was visibly upset that he didn't get to score.
Yeah.
And Ditka said, well, it was so early in the game, and I thought, well, we'll be down there again. We'll get another chance. But it turned into like a defensive rout. I mean, they intercepted a bunch of passes and, ran them back for a touchdown. And there was a safety, and the defense just dominated that game. You know what I mean? So
what a memory. Did you have any – and I know sometimes when you go through things, it's hard to appreciate your story of George Halas, but
right.
Did you appreciate the magnitude of that team and that game and the mark they would make on
not at all.
NFL history?
So we lost our first game, which was against the Miami Dolphins on Monday night. Dan Marino.
Dan Marino.
Yeah, Dan Marino. And so if we were undefeated at after that game we lost. It was on a Monday night. It's very tough to play on a Monday night away game because you're in your hotel room all day and it goes on and on and on. But after we lost to the Dolphins and we knew we weren't going to be undefeated that year, we were a team of destiny. It's like, okay, we're not going to be undefeated. Let's play the rest of the season out, get our Super Bowl ring. I mean, seriously, it was like that. It was like that. We were that dominating and that good that it was like there's no doubt we're going to do it. So the first playoff game, we play the Giants, we shut them out. Next playoff game, we play the Rams, we shut them out. Yeah. Then the Super Bowl, we 46 to 10.
46 to 10.
So it's like 93 to 10 in 3 playoff games of the best teams.
Because you had Singletary. Yeah, Dent, right?
Yeah, Dan Hampton. Steve McMichael,
yeah.
Who, God bless his soul, he's been suffering with ALS. But they just announced this year he's going to be inducted into the Football Hall of Fame.
Wow.
But I mean, he's been bedridden now for probably a year, and or maybe even longer. But anyway, so yeah, that defense, and then I feel the best guy. Because I had a block against him. There was a guy named Wilbur Marshall out of Florida.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Unbelievable linebacker. I mean, a talented guy and physical. And then Otis Wilson. And then we had so many guys. We had Gary Fensick. All these guys.
And you would go up against these guys every day in practice.
Right. Yeah. And that's why when people go, what's the best team you played all year? I go, the Chicago Bears. I have to practice against them every year, every day in practice. And, those guys were really good. And Buddy Ryan, the interesting thing about that team, the 46 defense, is that we had the horses to play that. And nobody else in the NFL played that defense. So it was kind of like they knew we were coming, but if you don't see it a lot, it's a lot of teams they would just confused because you'd see some of the offensive linemen go, I don't know who to block.
Yeah.
And the whole scheme was we're going to get to the quarterback before he has a chance to set up and pass.
It's incredible. You've maintained some contact with some of them, and then you were telling me about you had a reunion you went back to. Tell us a little bit about that.
Which reunion? So I went to they had an alumni game in September. First time I've been to a game in about 12 years. One of my neighbors out in Weiser, I had met him, 20 years ago, and I think his son was 7 or 8. And he found out I played on the Bears, so he's cursed to being a Bears fan because of me. So now he's in his, mid-20s, and my buddy says, hey, I've always wanted to take my son to a Bears game. Can we go to Chicago one time when it's convenient for you? It worked out, the alumni game, so we went back last September 10th. We saw him open against the Packers. I got to see Dick Butkus, who I wouldn't say I was friends, but acquaintances over the years, going to, Bears reunion type stuff. And unfortunately, he died shortly after that. Now, I take a picture with Dick Butkus, and he died shortly after. I took a picture with a guy who was a quarterback for the Bears for about 7 years, a guy named Bob Avellini. Unfortunately, he passed away about a week ago. I took a picture with him. I somehow feel like I'm a conduit of death. I mean, everybody I take a picture with, let's not take any pictures today.
Well, only video today.
Video, yeah, no still shots. But being able to go back to those kind of functions and see those guys after, you don't see them for 3, 4, 5 years, and you kind of pick up right where you left off. When what I thought was really interesting was when we won the Super Bowl. 2 days after that, the Space Shuttle Challenger blew up. So our invitation to the White House got postponed when Ronald Reagan was in the White House. And because President Reagan said the country shouldn't be celebrating, we should be mourning. So 25 years later, they never re-invited us to the White House. So 25 years later, for our 25-year anniversary, Obama invites us, to the White House. So the Bears charter a flight. We, shirt and tie. We all go back there. Now we come back. Everybody's sitting next to the same guys that they roomed with. It was like being on an away game that we won, and just picking up right where you left off. Because I think, it'd probably be something similar to those people that you struggled with in medical school. That if you don't see them, for so many years, you can go back and you still have that camaraderie. It's like you've seen each other last week. So. Yeah, it's pretty special to have that. And that's one of the things people ask about, like, do you miss playing football? And I can't tell you how many guys, it's not about the money. It's not even about the games. It's about the camaraderie in the locker room. You get to go hang out and be that sort, just hang out and be yourself. And, that's kind of how I started my second career of acting.
Let's go into that now.
Yeah,
So now,
was acting because I was trying to continue and have an opportunity to be a smartass and get paid for it. And that's kind of how the acting thing happened.
So in preparation for this, we've pulled up some of the reels, and you've done a lot more than you let on when I talked to you about this. You were a serious actor for
I was
12 years, right?
I was a working actor. So I worked and made money at it, and and never took any acting classes and that sort of thing.
Hey, listen, one of the highlights for us is you were on Baywatch.
Yeah.
I think there's one of these clips where you're actually carrying two people out of the water.
Yeah. And then at the end, I cry into David Hasselhoff's chest, which is a highlight too. Yeah, which he was one of the nicest guys I've ever worked with.
He was
really nice guy. I mean, there's some guys that you wouldn't want to work with again, or that sort of thing.
Okay, here it is.
Yeah, that's a tough job there.
There it is.
I face danger all the time.
That was Saved by the Bell. That one I played a fireman
Don't
guy.
get scared. We all do.
And you were on. It looks like you were on Jag. Was that? There was a,
No, it was another. I don't know. That wasn't a Jag. I never got to be on Jag. I was on Walker, Texas Ranger.
Yeah.
Chuck Norris beat me up. There were some shows in Hollywood at the time when I was acting. One of them was Walker, Texas Ranger, and the other was Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman. And they called them under sixes. And the reason being is that if you were over 6 feet tall, they wouldn't normally audition you because Chuck Norris is very short.
Oh.
And so is
Sure.
the woman that played Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman. She's very short. So my buddy was directing the Walker, Texas Ranger, and I kept on saying, hey, Mike, can you get me a part? He goes, Tim, I got to find the right part because I can't let Chuck see how tall you are. So he calls me, he says, I got this part. I play like a strip club manager, I'm the bad guy. So the first scene, I'm in with Chuck, and I'm sitting behind a desk, sitting down, so he can't see how tall I am. And I have my hair slicked back, and I've got a long black leather, coat on. And so we have words, and then Chuck gets, starts to leave the office, and my thing is I go behind him, put a bear hug on him, and I try to slam his head into the wall. Chuck puts his feet up, kicks off the wall, we fall back, he hits me in the face with an elbow, the scene's over, okay? Now, we rehearse this, and so now they'll do the, the lighting, they'll rehearse the scene, then they go step out, the actors step out, I have my long black leather coat on, they're gonna light it and all that stuff. So now, I'm standing there, and I see Chuck starting to come, and I go, oh, Mike said I can't let him see how tall I am. So I squat down, you can't really see, and I go, he's not going to stop and talk to me. Well, he does. He says, hey, Tim, you're Mike's friend from L.A. That's really great that you can be here. Now my thighs are burning, and they're like, I'm starting to sweat. I go, I can't stand up. I can't stand up. So he never found out how tall I was, which was good. I didn't want to get my friend Mike in trouble, but that was kind of the funniest thing of doing Walker. And he's a very nice guy, and it was a great set. But yeah, that was my Walker, Texas Ranger story. I get to get beat up by him, and he thinks I'm like 5'8".
Unbelievable. So then I got another question follow up. So I think I've told you this too, but my best friend growing up since I was a little kid, he's always, his celebrity crush has been Pamela Anderson.
Uh-huh.
So I asked you, I said, is she as beautiful in person as she is on TV? And you said that the other one was more
Jasmine Bleeth.
Jasmine Bleeth.
Yeah. It's funny because years, 2 or 3 or 4 years before Pamela Anderson was on Tool Time. What was the one with Tim Allen? What's the name of it? Home Improvement.
Home Improvement.
Yeah, she was the tool girl on Home Improvement. So I auditioned to be her boyfriend on that show, and I thought that she was prettier then than when she went to Baywatch, and became kind of all made up.
Yeah.
But she was so pure, kind of like just more innocent and not so Hollywood. And I that week she didn't work.
Tommy Lee will probably do that to you, right?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. But that week she wasn't working on the show that week. But the Jasmine Bleeth, gorgeous girl at the time. She was just like stunning. And there were quite a few.
What was
girls
that
like
life like? I mean, Tim, this is like, so you grew up in LA, you're UCLA football star, drafted in the NFL, you're Super Bowl champion, you go right into acting. I mean, life's pretty good.
Yeah, it's fun. But from the outside, it looked, like any job. It's a job, and I was not a big like go to all parties and stuff like that, and I liked working. That was part of the thing is working, and it was always a challenge because I never took an acting class.
I was going to ask you never took
an acting class. I had an acting coach, a guy that I met that was a UCLA guy that helped me out, and his words were more encouragement. Like when I met this guy that became my acting coach, it was shortly after I retired from football, and he says, "What are you going to do now, Tim?" I said, "You know what? I think I'm going to study to be an actor." And I was telling stories like we're telling stories. He goes, "You're already an actor." He goes, "Just go in and have a good day." And, when you're going in, and that's what I did when I acted. I just went in and like had fun, and I felt like I was being paid, to be a smartass, that kind of thing.
So you had some good experiences, good people. Mm-hmm. Any negative experiences with?
Oh yeah, yeah. So like Tony Danza had me fired. He had me fired. It's the a friend of mine was a producer on the show that he was doing. I can't remember the name of it now. The one where he played like the housekeeper. Do you remember this show at all? I can't remember that.
You guys are all too young over there.
Yeah.
Look at them. They're like, Tony Danza. Who's Tony Danza?
Anyway,
We're getting old, Tim.
Yeah. So
the whole production crew, they're like Googling Tony Danza. He was an actor, boys.
yeah.
Okay.
He was on Taxi first.
Oh, yeah.
And then he went off and had his own show.
Hey, look at what.
There he is.
Look at what. Oh, look at him now. He's looking old. Look at that.
Yeah.
Gray hair. Still looks good.
But anyway, I went on the set, and the two women that were the other lead actresses, they made a mistake of saying, "Oh, we have another good-looking guy on the set that's tall."
Oh.
That's tall. I was gone the next day.
He's a short guy, right?
Yeah. It's gone the next day.
A lot of these lead guys are short.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Tom Cruise.
Yeah. But Hasselhoff was tall.
Yeah.
He was taller than me. He's like 6'5".
Hey, next time we're hunting together, I guess the image of you nestling in his bare chest is going to be.
It wasn't bare. I just said chest. It wasn't bare. But he was a great guy. Another great guy was Drew Carey. I got to do Drew Carey's show, and he was a lot of fun. Kind of the people that are the lead of the show, the name of the show, they kind of set the tempo and the temperament of. And when you come in as a guest star or co-star, they kind of set the tone.
Were you entrepreneurial? So you got the football thing, then you go straight to Hollywood. Were you already entrepreneurial, or has that been kind of that reinvention this last?
No,
time?
I already was. So I wasn't. Unfortunately, I was never one of those guys that wasted my money. Like I never had like a real fancy car. I never did drugs, that kind of thing. I never wasted my money, right? So I started buying apartment buildings.
But you had to see a bunch of guys that did, right?
Yeah, I saw a bunch of guys that did. Yeah, but I was never like that. I'm not a big gambler. I don't like I like to bet on myself. But so I started buying like little apartment buildings in my hometown of San Pedro. So I was kind of doing that, like little real estate development things. There was old houses in the area I grew up in, and they were zoned R1, and then they got converted into like R3. So I buy these old houses that were kind of dilapidated, tear them down, and I could put up like 3 condos.
Yeah.
And I was doing like 1 or 2 of those a year.
Great. At the same time, you're acting.
Yep, same time I'm acting.
And then I do want to spend a little bit of time on some of the philanthropic stuff you're doing and your current businesses.
Thanks.
So how many years has Lazy Bear Ranch been up and running?
Doing what I'm doing now, I started the pheasant hunting about 2010.
Okay.
I've owned the property since 2000. When I was living down in California, I would come up and I would plant trees. I planted every tree. You know, there's hundreds of trees out
Unbelievable.
there. And built the ponds. I was doing that and driving back and forth. And then I moved up to Idaho full time like January of 2004. So, and then I was kind of going back and forth to California. I had a job. I was in commercial real estate, and my territory was Chicago. So I go from Idaho to Chicago, and then about 2010, I kind of decided I want to stay put and see what I can do as far as
What
making a living in Idaho.
What oasis you've created. So now some of the parts of the business, you do pheasant hunts that are, I do a lot of pheasant hunting in the
North
Dakotas,
Dakota,
but to me it is unbelievable experience. The way you have it set up, the way the dogs work, you love your dogs. It's an incredible experience.
That's been my goal. The first place I ever pheasant hunted was South Dakota. So back in the late 80s, early 90s, a friend of mine had a farm back in Gregory, South Dakota. So I went back there, and that's why, with all the shelter belts they have back in the Dakotas and stuff like that, that's where I kind of got the idea for my tree lines and that sort of thing. And
It feels a lot like you are. I mean, it's the same type of tree, the way you've got the habitat is impeccable, right?
Thanks.
It's just set up for it.
yeah, and the my goal is, I tell people, they go, "What's it like to hunt at your place?" I go, "It's like opening day 1965."
Yeah.
So opening day, because opening day the birds are kind of dumb,
Hold.
right? They hold. So, but the next day,
They run.
Yeah, you open your car door, they're out the bottom of the field, right?
Yeah.
But opening day, they'll hold,
Yeah.
and so I think there's a lot of things that go into it, and to make it look easy, it's been years and years of putting things together and trying different things with habitat, with the genetics of the birds, and all those things. And now I've got it kind of, I think, dialed in where I did not have a bad bird at all this year, and I went through 4,200 roosters, and every one of them flew. Every one of them got up. Every one of them, flew. They were challenging, and so the best compliment I get is that people, they have in their imagination what going to a pheasant farm is. Oh, we're going to go shoot some chickens,
Yeah.
It's not like that at my place. So I try to emulate a wild pheasant hunt the best I can.
Oh, I think you're spot on.
Oh,
It
thank
is.
you.
So for people to schedule hunts, it's lazybearranch.com. Go
yeah,
there.
yeah.
So it's also an event center. You build a hotel out there. You're going to have a concert here this
Yeah.
fall. And then I want to talk about your giving back, because I think that's a big thing
thanks.
for you.
I don't have kids of my own, and so I'm not around them a lot. I don't really feel comfortable around them because I'm not around them a lot. But I always feel like, when I was a kid, my dad wasn't around, so there was always coaches and those kind of people. And I've always felt you never know who you're reaching, when you do stuff like that. So I started a foundation, Tim Wrightman Foundation, and we do free football camps for kids that are kind of economically disadvantaged in the Treasure Valley, and we try to get those kids to come out. This last year, so it was March. I had, was it March? No, it was April 26th. It wasn't that long ago. But I had Jay Schrader, who was a quarterback of the Redskins and Raiders, come out. He was my quarterback at UCLA. I had an offensive tackle by the name of Luis Sharp, who was my teammate at UCLA, first-round draft pick of the Cardinals, came out. A kid named Tim Terrell came out. I had two of my former Bruin teammates come out that now live in Idaho. One lives in Eagle, another one has a ranch in Cambridge, and they came out, and it's really cool. I mean, it's different now with kids. They have so much going on, but it was cool. It was great to see those guys raise money and be able to put on those camps for kids. It was kind of funny. One of the kids, Jay, Super Bowl winning quarterback, he's talking to this kid now. You want to put your fingers this way? I swear to you, kids like this. Now put it this way before you throw it. And the kid goes, I got it. Like to Jay, and Jay looked at me like, I guess he's got it. He doesn't need any coaching. So anyway, it's fun to see, And you don't. So we do a football camp. We treat them to lunch at the ranch. It's all done right there at the ranch, and then we do what we call a character counts chalk talk afterwards. So the kids that stuck around, each guy got up and they talked a little bit about their past, what it took to succeed, the adversity they have to overcome, because everybody does, no matter how successful you are, and try to give them some perspective about. When I go to speak to kids, I always tell them that, what they ask them, what does the NFL stand for? They go, National Football League. I go, no, not for long. That's your career. So even if you're lucky enough to be one of those very, very, very small percentage of kids that do make it to the NFL, your career's not for long, because the average lifespan of the NFL guy is 2.5 years. So it's a short-lived career. But it's worth it. You know what I mean? It is worth it because of all the other things that happen around it. My life would be a lot different if I didn't play football. That's for sure.
Well, you're an amazing guy. I can't believe our hour's almost up. I got first of all, thanks for doing this.
Oh, you're welcome.
It's a big deal.
I look forward to hunting together with you this fall.
Can't wait.
And you're going to go to North Dakota early in the year, right? Yeah, cool. And you got a new dog.
Got a new dog, old Ringo, named after Johnny Ringo on Tombstone.
Oh, yeah.
He's doing really well.
Yeah.
George Costas is training him, and
what kind of dog is he?
he's a wired hair griff,
Okay.
and he's doing good.
How old is he?
10 months.
So this next fall will be his first.
I actually, when he was a brand new puppy, took him with me last year to North Dakota.
Yeah.
And he kind of just hung out. And I the first day I didn't want to shoot around him, but I got him gun broke, and
Yep.
He slept in the hotel with me, and he's like my guy.
He's your buddy.
He's my third buddy. So I got three of them, but one's duck hunting, one's for pheasant hunting, and
Right.
then the other one's a golden doodle that's just my guy.
That's great.
Your dogs are special. I've hunted with most of them now, and they're phenomenal. So it's really fun. That's the funnest part of it, right?
I think so.
I think that
They're the stars of the show.
they're the star, and that interaction and watching them and training them. I think it's one of the funnest things we do. I'm going to ask you three kind of life lesson questions. We have a lot of business people listen to this. Most important business lesson you've learned through the years?
Well, I have a favorite quote.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's Abraham Lincoln or Theodore Roosevelt it's attributed to, but I've used that in all aspects of my life. And that is, a person's power is their enthusiasm from failure to failure. And so, we've all failed. And as far as business, they always say the person that's successful is that person that just kept going one more time.
Yeah.
And so that's probably and then there was another thing a coach said to me once, really smart guy. He says, you never know when you're winning. So fight like hell, because you never know when you're winning. You could be.
Sometimes it's only when you look back.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So
This is a little spin on the same thing, but most important life lesson.
the most important thing I learned in Catholic high school was never call a nun babe. Sister Dorothea, she used to give these pop quizzes in algebra. And
Hey, this is going to go on the quote wall, like the podcast quote wall. Never call a nun babe.
yeah, so she used to give these pop quizzes in algebra, like 3 questions, 5 minutes to finish them. So I'm trying, I'm sharpening my pencil. Okay, time's up, class. Time's up, everybody. Tim, time's up. Just a second, babe. I mean, I knew it as soon as I said it, it was going to be trouble. But anyway.
Last one. Did you have a hero or a mentor growing up?
Yeah, my high school football coach. Yeah.
What was his
So,
name?
Joe Radisich and his nephew, Bob Radarich, they were my high school football coaches. And they taught me how to succeed. But I wanted to win for them. I really admired them as men. And so I wanted to win for them. It wasn't really about the struggle for me. And then they fought for me too. I mean, I went to a very small school. It was an all-girls school 2 years before I got there. There was 300 girls, 100 boys. We had 22 players on our football team. And, very small, small school. I could have just went unnoticed, and that's why, especially in these smaller communities of Idaho, I tell people if you're good, they'll find you. You know what I mean? It's so true.
And the power of a coach, someone that notices you, someone that singles you out and helps
right.
you and lifts you.
Yep.
Well, hey, you're an amazing guy. I
Thanks.
really appreciate our friendship, and this was super fun.
Thank you.
Thank
Went
you.
by like that.
It did. Thanks,
Okay.
Tim.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Tom.